Great. Okay. We'll probably have some more people joining us as we go. Always linking onto these tabs can be confusing, and we always have people linking on and then accidentally going off. So please bear with us. Well, this is going to be, we call this session 301. It's a 301st PLC session that we've ever had. And it's March 20th of 2024. And we want to welcome everyone. It's been a while since we saw you, but we hope to pick up where we left off, and we're going to have some exciting things as we go on. These are occurring every month now instead of every 2 weeks. Same time, same place, same website. Not the same one as last year. It is a new logon, so it's something to keep in mind. So with that, I'd like to introduce and to give you a little background just briefly. We've had a little bit of a hiatus, and Blaze will talk about that. And we're back, and we'll be running through new developments, news, some open discussion about issues that people might be having, and a little bit about strategies that people using this successfully in their job training programs. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Blaze. He's with Technical Assistance at Brownfields, who is now working with us as our prime partner. And Blaze, do you want to go from here?
Yeah, thanks, Mike, and welcome everyone. And thanks, Mike, Steve, and Nolan, and Tim for setting this up and even flying the K-State banner a little bit. So the Technical Assistance to Brownfields program at K-State and our peer providers across the country are really happy to be working with these individuals and you all and continuing to provide job training technical assistance after the HMTRI group's grant got discontinued by a decision by those institutions that ran that. EPA reached out to us, or the TABs, which are different kinds of technical assistance providers, but can certainly help with job training work as well, to see if we'd like to fill a gap for a while until a new competition for a 5-year job training TA provider could be issued and everything. And we said, sure, as long as Mike, Steve, and Nolan can sort of continue their tenure as the experts in this area. So we're in learning mode, just like maybe some of you are, but I'm certainly in learning mode and happy to be helping out. We're, as you've seen in announcements about this, in addition to the professional learning community meetings, the e-newsletters that'll be coming out every other month, the all grantee meeting, we'll be adding sort of a tab touch to this at the request of EPA by providing a couple of webinars, a job training program 101 and a grant writing 201, kind of all before the next call for job training applications comes out. For those who aren't quite ready to apply for job training grant or renew, if that's your situation, but let's say there's a new grantee that wants, or potential grantee that wants to, they can get more information at the all grantee meeting about that. And we'll be providing, one-on-one technical assistance, including review of draft job training applications as well. But I think a lot of what you'll see will be what you've known and probably loved with work by Mike, Steve, and Nolan and Tim. So beyond welcoming you, I just wanted to say hello. I'm the executive director of the K-State TAB program. I've been doing kind of the MARC grant technical assistance for a long time, since like 1997, when it was all piloted it. And we've always known of HMTRI and their work. So we're, again, happy to be working together. And just like in previous announcements about this you've probably seen. Please feel free to reach out to me and to copy Mike, Steve, and Nolan by email, all by email, and you'll get, one of us will be back in touch with you, most likely Mike, Steve, or Nolan. But again, glad to be on board with this and look forward to learning from you all and meeting you all. And with that, I think that's more than enough. So I'll pass it back to.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you, Blaze.
Yeah.
Blaze and his group and all of the other tabs, there are 6 of them around the country. I call them the boots on the ground people. They're the ones that are setting up the assessment pilots, and they're, she said, as Blaze said, the myriad of projects, revolving loan funds, and the MARC grants to assist communities in getting those grants. We've traditionally been working in the job training arena, and the linkage between these two are, hopefully we'll be working in the same communities. They're working in underserved communities that have been affected by development, and we're identifying the same communities. So ideally, our job training programs will be in close proximity to their Brownfields programs. So that's pretty much the linkage of the two. And of course, whenever you're doing boots on the ground work, the first thing that comes up is looking for people that can be taking advantage of these opportunities of jobs created by the cleanup work. And that's what we're here for. Our program traditionally is a lot smaller, maybe by a factor of 10. We're a small group, and that begs the question of, why do we have these PLCs? And we're a small community. We found early on that being a small and manageable community, we're able to have these calls where we can get to know each other, exchange some ideas, find out what other people are doing, and look at their strategies. And there have been a lot of strategies that grantees have used that other people have found successful. They've been able to adopt them into their program. And so this exchange of ideas is a good one. We are attempting to try to be not necessarily talking heads, but rather interaction. And one thing with the small group that allows us to ask questions, and in future PLCs, we'll have plenty of discussion and hopefully some heated discussion about the program, how perhaps EPA might change it, what changes we could recommend for EPA in future programs, and how we respond to what they're asking us to do. So that's essentially the purpose. As I described earlier, we also try to provide you with the latest news, what's happening in EPA that you may not be aware of, what's expected in the next RFA. Those of you who are already on grants may want to keep up on the news and track what announcements change in terms of our RFAs, because eventually you'll be looking to re-up your grant, and hopefully you'll be able to keep up with what other people are doing. And then, of course, answer any questions you might have if you're a new grantee or applying for a grant, questions in that arena, or if you're an existing grantee responding to a particular issue that you may be having. So with that, does anyone, while we have Blaze here, does anyone have any questions of Blaze regarding I call it the boots on the ground program, or what they're doing and how it relates to us? Our grants, of course, are $500,000 for 5 years. Their grants are many number of grants. We have 50 grantees, and he could probably multiply that by 10 at least. A much bigger program. But any questions of Blaze before while we still have him on the PLC? Anyone? Okay. Well, with that, oh yeah, Blaze. Okay, great.
Oh, no, thanks again for.
Well, one thing about Blaze, he's always available. So
yeah,
that's
I try
fantastic.
to be. I get back to you eventually, but there's always a cell phone you can call if you think I didn't see your email or
There
something.
we go. I'm
Yeah.
going to turn it, let's turn it over to Nolan. He'd like to introduce everyone that we're able to do with this group.
Sure, and we have
No.
a couple of housekeeping rules. All of you are very polite, we know that. As we get out the new site for our PLCs and we reach a larger audience through the tabs, we hope or we suspect that this group will probably grow. So, you know, one of the things that Mike and Steve were so good at doing was establishing this community of all of us and people getting to know each other. So one thing we'd like to ask is that where you have your name listed for the Zoom call, if you could list your name and then your organization or location, that way in case we don't get a chance to introduce everybody going forward, or just during the meeting when people look up, they can see like who you are and where you're from. And that can be very helpful to people, you know, in understanding what programs are out there. And so the virtual prize goes to Iris Rivera of Pathstone, because she's already done that. And so, you know, you win our virtual prize that you will be getting it virtually anytime now. So prepare a virtual space on your trophy shelf for that, and thanks. But if you could add like your program name or where you're from, it really just helps people figure that out. For now, we'll keep the same protocol. If you have a question, you can either put it in the chat, you can raise your hand, or you can just speak up. So, you know, the three of us, Mike, Steve, and I, we move our lips a lot, but we really like hearing from you and using our ears. So if you have a question or a comment or something to say, you know, don't be afraid to you know, break in for the good of the group. Because the meetings are going to be monthly, we're probably looking at a 90-minute meeting. We were going that long anyway, and then we tried to kind of cut it down to 60 minutes, but we feel like as we get a larger population and more things to discuss, 90 minutes will probably be adequate because we aren't having them as frequently. So we're going to try to put a little more content in. Also, all the PLCs, we do have notes and recordings. We're going through a little bit of a process change as to where those notes and recordings will be housed. So sometime next week, we'll be sending you an email with where the notes for and recording for this meeting are, as well as for past PLCs. So, you know, again, stay tuned for that. And we're working through that issue with both KSU and EPA, and should have a resolution shortly. And so before I start all the other introductions, I would like to introduce Tim Hunter, have Tim Hunter introduce himself, because he is a critical component of our team. So Tim.
Got to take myself off mute. Thanks, Nolan. Yeah, I'm just here as a helping hand, really, for Nolan, Steve, and Mike, and we're working on some things as far as getting the content to you guys in a web format type of way. So I'm here to help. If you guys have any, you know, technical sort of questions, I'm definitely here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Tim. And so we'd like people to just give us a little brief statement about yourself or your program. So we'll start with Dr. Joseph Robinson, Jr.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm senior pastor of Free for Evergreen. We're headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina, but we have satellite sites here, one in New Jersey where I'm now currently speaking to you. And we started out as working with people who were formerly incarcerated, returning from prison, as returning citizens. And so we started a recycling initiative, which was allowed us to get into the toll sorting and baling industry for recycling haulers, processors, and manufacturers. So the different grades of plastics, we get them by the truckload, 30 to 40,000 pounds of commingled materials. That material being commingled is very little in value, but if it's sorted and baled with its own material, then the price for selling to the end market is higher. So that was the model that we created successfully in Charlotte, North Carolina, with the city of Mecklenburg, Charlotte, city of Mecklenburg, and the state of New Jersey's Natural Resources Department and Recycling Department. So we're looking to create that model in all urban corridors where there's lack of employment and the levels of crime are high. So that's a model that we're definitely interested in participating in, but we haven't seen anything other than brownfield initiatives, which we do some brownfield abatements, we do lead abatement, we do mold remediation and abatements, and we do residential, commercial, industrial tear downs and remediations. So that's
Thank
our
you.
model. So it's an
Thank you.
environmental social justice ministry, nonprofit.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank you.
Robertson. Could I jump in just super quick and say that there's some folks trying to get in to the meeting, like our EPA friends, a few of them that wanted to be in that say they're locked out or probably in a waiting room or something. Can whoever has the control maybe see them and let them in if they have the right connection info. I sent that to them when they asked.
Yeah, we don't have the waiting room on, so they should be able just to access straight
Yeah, I don't
in.
know what's going on.
Hey Blaze, let me send you the link that we have for it. Maybe it's
Okay, maybe that'll work. Thanks. I'll just watch and sorry to interrupt.
I'll
Yeah.
put it in the chat, Blaze.
Thanks.
Same thing happened here. One of my coworkers trying to enter and she's unable to access the meeting.
Could have something to do with when you maybe if you made like Tim the host or something. I'm not sure, but it could have been it. But I'll send the link when it comes through.
All right. Let's see, Amy, Penny?
Hi there. My name's Amy Penny. I'm with the Alaska Forum and we've had a grant for a long time. I should probably know how long, but it's probably been close to a decade, if not longer. And I think we're actually operating, sorry, I have a little coworker in the background. I'm getting back into full-time work after having a baby, but we are actually operating 2 grants right now. I believe the end of one we're wrapping up and beginning of another, but we do a lot of rural environmental education training. So HAZWOPers and asbestos abatement. But lately we've started with the new grant doing community emergency response training for rural Alaska. So training community members in how to respond to emergencies, especially in areas that maybe don't have a police force or don't have a fire department. And so that has been really successful. We trained about, I think, 30 people back in October, and we have another training coming up in April, which is going to be another 25 people. So our focus is rural Alaska and small and underserved communities to help them retain or obtain employment. And then also this new community emergency response training.
Okay, thank you. Jacqueline Pina, is it French last name?
Hold on 1 minute. I'll get my face up. Hi.
Wow. And such a face it is.
I'm sorry, please again.
And such a face it is. We're happy to see you.
Well, thank you. I'll take it as a compliment. My name is Jacqueline Pina. I live in New Bedford, Mass. And right now, I am working with the community and the city. I'm the city and community liaison for a Brownfields project that we're working on.
Okay, super, and welcome. Candace Mirabal?
Hi, I'm Candace Mirabal. I'm from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm here on behalf of Janet Curley. We just got a 5-year EPA grant, and we've had other smaller ones in the past, but so we're starting our 5 years now. Yeah, we do environmental job training for people that are underemployed and unemployed in the area. We work around Los Alamos National Labs, so it's kind of a high demand job right now. But yeah, that's us.
Okay, welcome. And please give our best to Janet.
Absolutely.
Elizabeth Cornell.
Sorry. Hi, Nolan. It's Libby.
Yeah, I realized that as soon as I moved my lip.
But that's okay. That's quite all right. I'm also Libby. I mean, Elizabeth. Sorry.
Buddy, I can't talk right now. I'm on the Zoom call. I'm here. All right.
So Tim or someone, you can probably mute.
Yeah.
There she goes.
Okay. So I'm in New Orleans, and my nonprofit is Honeybee Strategies. We just got the 5-year, $500,000 EPA job training grant. It hasn't kicked in yet. It's supposed to kick in October, but I've been hearing from our EPA folks that they'd like to get it started a bit sooner. So I'm actually hearing early May, so we shall see.
Sounds great, and welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Maria Enriquez. She might have left. Iris Rivera.
Hello, everyone. My name is Iris. I am from Paxton Corporation in Puerto Rico Island. So we have two grants for training and employment services from the EPA, and we do provide training and employment services to unemployed and underemployed participants in the northeast side of the island. Yeah.
Okay, super. And again, welcome and good to see you again. And our best to all of your crew that we've been working with over the years. Sherry Calloway.
Hello. I work with Libby in New Orleans, and we started our nonprofit in 2020 during COVID. And we've received 2 OSHA Susan Harwood grants. And this is our first EPA grant, and we're focusing on small businesses, other nonprofits, and providing health and safety training. And an exciting part about this grant is we have partnered with the, it's bigger than the Homa Native tribe out of south of New Orleans, but with the Indian tribes of Louisiana. So we're pretty excited about that.
Congratulations, Sherry. Those are tough grants to get, that Susan Harwood grant. So that's great.
Thank you.
And when that comes up, it's something that other job training grantees may want to consider if you're strong in OSHA training, as you are. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay. So I'm not seeing new participants, so I don't know if we've been able to work through letting in the people who are trying to get in or waiting, but we'll move on, and hopefully we can introduce them or meet them as they join us. Our next section are frequently asked questions, and so we just have a few, but each session we like to share with everyone the questions of interest or some that have been raised by PLC participants. So the first one is that we're a new applicant without prior job training or EPA grant history. Will we be at a disadvantage when competing against experienced grantees? So some of you have been here for quite a while. Others are thinking of applying or just now applying. And the response is EPA, and again, I have to be careful. I'm not an EPA employee, so I don't speak for them, but we believe EPA is interested in expanding both the applicant pool and the population of recipient communities for the Brownfield job training grants. And so new applicants are encouraged to apply. The evaluation criteria are detailed in the request for application guidelines, or RFA guidelines. And while the job training grant program includes past performance, evaluators recognize that some applicants may not have past performance. New applicants are not penalized and will receive a neutral score on this part of the evaluation. So, we're encouraging new applicants And so don't feel that because you haven't been there before, you can't get in there now. The next question was, what is the time frame for receiving EPA funding to start a new job training program in the community? And the grant application review, award, and finalization may vary, but as an estimate, this is what you can expect regarding EPA's schedule for the awarding of the FY25 Brownfields job training assistance. So we think the EPA request for applications will be out in early June of this year. The JT grant applications for funding are due in early August. And so the initial screenings of applications will occur in September, the announcement of funded applications in December, and the grant finalization approval to spend funds is in the spring of 2025. So generally you have about 60 days from when the RFA is issued to when the RFA is due. So we actually encourage people to really start looking at what kind of information and relationships they need and getting those sections or sessions, kind of pre-written or underway before the RFA actually comes out. And that's about it. And I'll turn it over to, I'm sorry, we have one more. Can an organization submit more than one application during each grant cycle serving different communities? So you might be on more than one team, if you will, or want to do more than one, but the applicants cannot submit multiple applications, even if the applicant proposes to serve a different target area. So your name can appear once in an application and one application only. And so that's it. So I'll now turn it over to Steve.
Okay, thanks, Nolan. All right, just some job training news, and I'll just pass this along. The expected criteria has been provided by EPA early so that the prospective brownfield job training applicants can plan accordingly. Additional details, definitions, and final criteria will be included in the FY25 brownfield job training request for applications, which will be in early June. Applying and reapplying for grants. If you're a past grantee, you must affirm that you do not have an open job training grant. And if you're a current EPA job training grantee with open grants and you wish to reapply for an additional grant, you have to demonstrate that you've drawn down and dispersed at least 50% of your current grant by June 1st of 2024. In addition, and this is also in the new pre-application criteria, applicants may, but are not required to propose forming a coalition to carry out their job training program. Applying as a job training coalition could allow the job training provider to recruit, train, and place students in environmental jobs, especially in rural areas where the geographic area is larger. A job training coalition is comprised of one lead entity, and it also has partners who are not the lead, but they are eligible entities. And the lead entity is the applicant that submits the application on behalf of the coalition members who may receive sub-awards. And I will include this information. It'll be in the job training notes, but I'm going to put that in the chat so that you have that information if you want to peel that off. Take a look at the, there it is. Take a look at the criteria ahead of time. Moving forward, we do want to shout out to the 14 new FY24 applicants who received their award notices late last year. Cornerstones of Care in Kansas City, Missouri. E3 Solutions in Selma, Alabama. Groundwork, Ohio River Valley in Cincinnati. The Housing and Redevelopment Authority of Cumberland County, Pennsylvania. The Northside Industrial Development Company in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The City of Texarkana, Texas. And the Workforce Development Board of Herkimer, Madison, and Oneida counties. And Youthville in Louisville, Kentucky. And of course, and we are happy to have Libby and Sherry here, Honeybee Strategies of Louisiana. So congratulations to all of you. There's also 5 grantees that have been around in the past that were re-up, and Great Lakes Community Conservation Corps in Racine, Wisconsin. Congratulations to them. Also, Kern County Builders Exchange, operating in Kern, Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Fresno, Tulare, and Kings counties in California. The city of Pittsburgh, that's in California, not the one in Pennsylvania. And the Research Foundation of the City College of New York in Harlem. And also, Candace is here representing Santa Fe Community College. Congratulations to all of them. We're really delighted to see all of those folks receive grants. And now that we're in spring, it's a good time to kind of review program plans, prepare for the next training cycle, anticipate the next round of Brownfield job training requests. Currently, we have about 50 active Brownfield job training programs. And depending on each organization situation, spring activities may vary depending on where you are in that cycle. There are 7 active grantees remaining with grants awarded in FY22 that were funded for over $200,000 over the 3 years. Organizations in this group are well seasoned and positioned and have experienced the problems and benefits associated with the Brownfields job training programs. These programs have an opportunity to renew their partnership relationships and consider how they may expand their program in anticipation of resubmitting an FY25 application next summer for the $500,000 over the 5-year period. The FY23 grantees, and we have 29 of those that have received authority to spend funds and are now actively training and establishing new cohorts. Special attention now needs to be given to the community awareness, recruitment, and student assessment parts of the program. And then, of course, the FY24 job training class that we just announced includes a lot of the veterans, like, again, Santa Fe, City of Pittsburgh, Kern County, the Great Lakes Community Conservation Corps, and City College of New York, along with several new organizations just beginning their first training cohort. And this first training cohort of a new grant is usually the most difficult, kind of reveals the unintended issues and situations that you may not have previously anticipated. And hopefully with the helpful tips from other experienced grantees through networking and with this job training tab assistance, the recruitment, training, and placement will be as successful as planned. And then lastly, the FY25 prospective job training applicants. Often potential applicants consider developing a job training program, but procrastinate until it's too late to develop a credible program plan. So community and partner relationships take time and effort to establish, and we encourage you to start those if you haven't already. Now is the time to begin testing the water, begin contacting potential governmental and non-profit organizations regarding their interest in assisting and the development of a local job training programs. Each community really needs a champion to move the concept forward and develop that team of volunteers who are willing and able to participate in the job training development process. So, that's just kind of an overview of where things are now. And I think with that, I will turn it back to Mike.
Yeah, if I could interrupt Steve and Mike, we were joined by Amanda Pease. If you'd like to just briefly introduce yourself.
Hey, sure thing. Also, my camera's not working today, so apologies for that. But my name is Amanda Pease. I'm with EPA in Region 9 out of our San Francisco office. And I am a project officer working with 5 of our job training grantees in various parts of California.
Okay, thanks. And glad you're here. And also we were joined by Matt Washy, and he's someone that you should all get to know. And so Matt, if you'd like to say a few words.
Yeah, sure. Just Matt Washy. I'm the National Job Training Coordinator. Glad these calls are back up and running. Thanks to Mike, Steve, Nolan, Blaze, all the work you guys are doing. Really appreciate it.
Right. So he's being a little shy, but he's the guy. So ultimately, he makes the rules and the golden rules, and he has the gold. So become best friends with him and all of the EPA coordinators and all of the tab coordinators, because they can really, really help you. Okay, with that, I'm sorry, we'll move on. Mike.
Nolan?
Yes.
We've got Alma Marino from EPA Region 7.
Oh, okay.
Looks like she joined us too.
Alma, do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, this is Alma. Let's see if I can get the camera working. Let's see.
There she is.
It's it's kind of dark though. I don't know why it's so dark. But anyway, that's me. Hi. And I'm the Brownfields Job Training Coordinator for Region 7. I'm not sure how many grantees I have, but 1, 2, 3, 5 of them I think as well. So anyway, look forward to hearing from all of you and hope you can encourage others to apply for this next round.
Okay, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Mike?
Okay. I'm glad we got to introduce some of the job coordinators, because for those of you who are thinking of starting a program, your regional job coordinator is the first place to go. They are your friends. They will work with you as close as they can until the RFA comes out, which is expected in June. They can help you. They can get you on their lists. Many of the regions have regional job training listservs, so that you'll be included in all the activities they have. They often have briefings. Sometimes they will request that we be on the briefing to help with some of the questions they might have from their prospective grantees. If you're an existing grantee, those are for prospective grantees. If you're an existing grantee, again, they're your best friends. If you've got a problem or an issue, and of course, you've got quarterly reports, those of you who are familiar with this, quarterly reporting to your regional coordinators. And again, any issues or problems, go to them. Now, some of them have assistants that work with them. So you may be assigned assistant, or they may work with you. If you're not sure who to contact, we put them in the notes. Speaking of notes and recordings, we're recording all of our professional learning community calls, and we're also going to be providing notes, so you don't have to take them. And in those notes, they'll have the links to particular sites that we might recommend along the way. They also include additional funding opportunities that we've come across. They might include additional trainings that we found that might help you. Things like working with trainings offered by Grants and Department, or the ACRES program for reporting. So those notes are in there, and every month we also include the regional coordinators, so you can contact them with, again, a list of our future PLCs and how to access them and when they'll be. And they'll always be on the third Wednesday of every month, the same location, the same login. Hopefully we'll get our login straightened out. We may have locked some people out this time, but we'll make sure we take care of that. One of the things we'll do, and I think Nolan has talked a little bit about that. Are you going to talk about that later? Some of the things we're going to be providing, Blaze touched on it. One thing in particular is the all grantee meeting that we do every year. Nolan, did you want to speak to that before we
Sure.
go on? Okay.
So we're having the all grantee meeting, and we'd like you to save the date. We're currently planning to hold the 2024 all grantee meeting during the week of August 19th. All right. So the meeting will be virtual, and it should provide important information, networking opportunities for all levels of JT grantees, from aspiring to seasoned programs. We've not yet landed on the final format, presenters, or duration, whether it'll be 1 day or 2 days. but would like you to pencil in that Tuesday through Thursday. We know we won't have it on Monday, we won't have it on Friday, but again, it'll be 1 or 2 days, that Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, or some combination during that week of August 19th. So if you could pencil that in, that will be the all grantee meeting. It is virtual this year based on timing, budget and organization. So we do know that the in-person meetings are better, and they're different. But we wanted to have the meeting rather than not have it. So we will be having the virtual meeting. And we're also looking for input. So we're interested in your input as to what topics or discussions would be beneficial to you, your programs, or your communities. And if you'd please submit your comments and ideas to Mike, Steve, or I, we'll put our contact information in the chat, and it'll be on the last slide of this presentation, on how to email us. So again, if you have ideas or comments or suggestions, whether it's content or process or presenters, please let us know. Also, if there's things that just don't work well for you in terms of, this kind of a Zoom meeting, we need to know that too. So, again, the earlier your input, the more time we have to consider it. And we're asking for input from the EPA coordinators as well as from the TAB coordinators. So again, we're going to frame that up, and then we should be able to get you more information as we draw closer to the event. Thanks, Mike.
Grantees really love the all grantee meeting, and Zooms are fine, but there's nothing like getting in a group, having side conversations, getting to know each other, having one-on-one between grantees to find out what's working for you and what's not working for you, or what your problems are. And also, can I get in touch with you about what you're doing with a certain strategy that we're considering using? And we usually get all the grantees, and we get all of the EPA regional coordinators there. And in addition to that, we get people from headquarters who are experts in reporting and legal aspects of it, and welcoming by the assistant administrator. So it's a great meeting to put on your calendar. We're still firming up the, at least for the Zoom version, we're still firming up the final details on that, but we'll keep you informed on that happen. Dr. Robinson, did you have a question? You had your hand up?
Yeah, one question was, are there initiatives for recycling initiatives for job creation in urban communities as well as rural?
Yes. In fact, we can't wait to get you in touch with Recycle Force, which you may be aware of now. Recycle Force is one of our stars. They've had several re-ups already. What Recycle does is, and they're a little different than you are, they recycle anything with a plug. Anything with a plug they recycle, and they work 100% with ex-offenders in Indianapolis, Indiana. They have established a very solid program. In fact, they just moved into a fantastic facility. They have been able to leverage the Brownfields grant. They had never had a government grant before. They had some state grants and some smaller grants, but once they got into the EPA job training grant, it gave them incentive and credibility, we might say, to go after much larger grants. And they have just ballooned. They have done tremendously. Ken Alexander and will be happy. I'm amazed he's not on the call. And Ken is a great guy, and we'll make sure that you're in touch with them. You're working in different fields, but with the same target group and actually the same general mission. And they are now developing internal staff to do their own technical training, which we'll get into later in our PLCs, whether you hire trainers as consultants or whether you develop your own training staff. But I think they'll be in touch with us on future PLCs, and we'll make sure that we we talk about those topics.
Okay.
You're working in a great area, and it's a difficult population to work with, but very rewarding.
Yeah.
Very rewarding.
We've come across some technologies where we can process. Hold on a second. We can process just about all kinds of waste and create up to 16 tons of diesel oil per day.
Wow.
And
That's fantastic.
And then we also are looking to take EPS and turn it into a renewable energy, as well as in-market usable products like for agriculture industries, the flower pots, the seeding pots. These are biodegradable pots, clothing hangers, all manufactured from recycled EPS and plastic.
Fantastic. You know, the thing that Recycle Force has worked very hard on is working with ex-offenders. And in fact, their circles concept have been adopted by many of the other grantees, where every morning they'll form a circle and they'll just talk. Not necessarily anything about business, they'll just talk. And they also have a mentoring program where seniors, and these are, again, they're all ex-offenders, seniors who are returning citizens, will work with someone who just came out of the criminal justice system. And they encourage them. And we'll be talking about that, particularly in areas like retention. How do you keep people in your program? And how do you keep them motivated? And Recycle Force has done a tremendous amount of work in this area, focusing on this particular population who have had a very rough time with street debt, with mental issues, with physical issues, everything that you've already seen, they've also experienced. And this goes not only for Recycle Force and for your program, but many other programs who are accepting ex-offenders, who are people returning from the criminal justice system, a variety of socioeconomic conditions. They do not want to send them back to the old neighborhood. They want them to start new lives. Recycle Force has parole officers coming into their program. They're working with, as far as partners go, bringing in lunch programs, a tremendous program. But what they do and what you do, what's important and what we like to do at the PLC is we like those same strategies are applicable to existing programs. It may take a different format, whether it's a mentoring program or working with people who are coming out of the justice system, or perhaps people coming out of another type of program. The strategies are transferable between different groups. So we want to keep that in mind and share those experiences that you're having. Amen. And you've had already with the entire group. So
yeah, Dr. Robinson, if you could put your contact information in the chat, I can also send you some information on some other grants that may touch on what you're doing. They're outside of EPA, but they're DOE and other agencies that have some grants that may be applicable. I haven't reviewed them deep enough. I can at least send you those leads, because some of them have very short lead times for the application. So,
all right, thank you.
Hello, Shanine. Welcome. We'd like to introduce you.
Hi.
Shanine's Region 3.
2.
She's your regional coordinator. Region 2, I'm sorry.
Yes. Hello.
You've got a great group of grantees in your region.
Yes. We are Region 2. We represent New York, New Jersey, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. I believe that we have our people from Pastone on the call. So Thank you for joining, and thank you for having us, and thank you for bringing back the PLC. We find it to be really, really critical to the work that we're trying to do in the region. So looking forward to future conversations and just all of the expertise around the room. So thank you.
Well, thank your boss, Matt. Thank the people at KSU, and thank all of yourselves for the support. So we're happy to be back. And
well, and what Janine missed was your first friend to contact if you're thinking of starting one of these programs or concerned about your program is your regional coordinator, Janine, or the people that work with her. If she can't answer your question, she'll send you to the person who's working with her that will answer the question. So we're going to move on and talk a little bit today, the very basics. And this is whether or not,
Mike?
Yes.
Mike, I think Alma has her hand raised.
Oh, Alma, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell Dr. Robinson that I put it in the chat, and I don't know if he saw it, but there is the recycle force, which, as you explained, kind of mirrors what maybe they're doing, what Dr. Robinson's group might be doing. The application was redacted and is posted. I think I downloaded it from the KSU tab website. But also I don't know which region you're in, Dr. Robinson.
I'm in New Jersey.
So that would be, would that fall in Shanine's area? I don't know. Shanine?
Yeah, that would be me. I think we've connected before, Dr.
I think I met Miss Shanine a few years ago. I did submit an EPA grant one time. We weren't successful with it, but she encouraged us to try again. And I've had some family matters dealing with my parents and then my own personal health. So I'm just getting back in the saddle. But she was very helpful to us when we first applied, and we were glad to reconnect with you, Ms. Mitchell, and we will be in contact.
That's what I'm here for, so no problem.
And sometimes the KSU tab website is a little hard, difficult to maneuver, and that's why I was suggesting you connect with Shanine, and then she can help you download it. I know I downloaded it, but I don't remember. It changes, and of course also Steve Fenton and others here could help you through the website. It'd be good to become familiar with the KSU website, but I do think that's one that you want to look at.
Okay, thank you.
And I would add that there is absolutely no negative and a lot of positives to applying a second time or a third time. In the old days, almost nobody got an application accepted the first time. That first time is a trial, and then they would apply, and then and very important, up to about 15 days after they receive a rejection, they can contact their regional coordinator, and they'll go with them point by point and find out what the weak points are and get ready. We have to remember, by the time these applications are accepted or rejected, which it might be in the late winter of that year, we're not that far away from the beginning of the next grant. These are annual grants, which is what really makes them nice. So you get rejected a particular year, you build on your application, you find your weak spots, and then you build on them, and then bingo, you get it in the next year. So that's one thing we want to always consider for new grantees. Well, actually, whether you're a new grantee or you're an existing grantee, this is a question you have to ask. And before you even start, and if you're continuing your program, do we have a need in our community and an interest? Is it whether it's a community interest or a political interest or employer interest in a program like this? The obvious answer is, of course we do, but it's something very basic. Is there a political will? When you make calls, are people saying, that's a great idea, I would like to pursue that further, or our community really needs a job program, we found over the years that mayors particularly like this program and usually uses a photo op every time. Oh, I'm sorry. Is your hand still up, Alma, or did you have a question, an additional question? Okay, maybe not. Okay. Anyway,
Sorry, my bad.
that's fine. That's fine. That's what we're all about, trying to get everyone have the question to be recognized. But is there a political will? As I was saying, we found early on that mayors, whenever there's a graduation, mayors love to be, or the congressmen love to be at these graduations for a photo op. They like to be part of the community. We're giving local jobs to community residents in an area of deep concern to the community, and that's the environmental degradation that's occurred over the years. And particularly if it's an underserved population who may feel that they've been forgotten. This is a particularly appealing program to everyone, but I think you have to reaffirm, we know that, but is there really that drive to go further? Because there's an effort that's going to be involved. And often we find there is, but then the question is, well, who's going to carry the torch? And the principal, or we could call him a program manager, you could call him a task manager, who might become the director. Every program needs that advocate, who that's going to be, whether it'll be you, whether you're going to be trying to recruit someone who's very aggressive, very good at organizing, very tenacious, can act as a taskmaster for all the other things that have to be done. That key person, we find that every program has that person. And who is it? And often we will get a call from someone in the community, maybe from the mayor's office, or from a community development person who says, we really want this program. Well, the next question is, who do we convince to do the program? And that's not necessarily a simple task. It might be in a community college, that's someone that's working there. We remember that these grants have to be developed offline, so to speak. You're not funded these are not planning grants. You will have to have volunteer work to develop this grant, and it'll take some time, and it'll take people who are going to have to volunteer their time in kind until the grant is accepted. So you're going to have to find that person who is really motivated and ready to accept this job, and also has the time to do that. You also have to think a little bit about how is this going to benefit the community? And this is all addressed in the RFA when it comes out. And we'll talk a little bit about that later. Is there a community need? And we talked about that. There may be a desire and everybody may be interested, but really, is there a community need? And that gets into what we're going to talk about later about, we call them critical components in developing a job training program. We identify 8 programs, which I'll talk about in a minute, that you need to develop. And one of those is developing what is the community need and identifying that. Right after you've identified someone, say at the community college, who says, we feel we're willing to have this person work quarter time on this to develop this grant, and we're going to go for it. And now that person now takes charge, and he starts thinking, okay, what are the resources we're going to need to implement this program? We're going to need governmental support. We're going to need partnership and leveraging support, because this, again, it's a $500,000 grant, but over 5 years, that's only $100,000 a year. You cannot support a program with $100,000 a year. So you're going to need a lot of in-kind work and leveraging going on. You're going to need community support. So once you have a program, this is not a program where you build it and they will come. You're going to have and develop a community motivation and people in the communities who are your advocates. Very similar to choosing the person who's going to spearhead the project. You have to find someone in the community who is going to advocate your program and get community residents to enroll in your program, particularly if you're new. If you're an existing program, you've got the same issues. You could have an ongoing program and all of a sudden find challenges in recruitment and find out that there is no one out there in your target community who is really pushing it. They're not your advocates, and it's come and go, and they look for other opportunities they think might be better for them. So you really need strong community support. And then, of course, you're going to have to develop project staff. This is very tough, and some people do it alone. You could be the chief, the bottle washer, and do everything until you get started, and hopefully collect people along the way. But early on, you're going to have to start identifying staff, and I'll identify in just a second what those staff are going to be doing for you. So once you identify these resources that you're going to need to start your program, you're going to have to start identifying a working group of the people that you've identified in what I just talked about. You could start establishing your working group early, and of course, this is the time for you to do this right now. This is a group that you'll be meeting on a regular basis, and you've got to set up commitments and milestones. If the difference between a grant that goes from thought to implementation is a grant that everyone has a commitment to do certain things at a certain date, and you've got to be a taskmaster, establish, okay, you're going to do this by a certain date. We're going to lay this out, and everyone in your working group knows what they're going to be doing and when they have to have it done. We all have very busy schedules, and it's very easy to let that drift. And if it drifts, you're going to come up to the application date of in June and find out that you just have not developed some of these areas that you need to develop. And the fallback position is, well, we're going to have to wait till next year, and that's okay if that's what happens. But if you could you could avoid that by forming that working group and not being afraid to assign everyone a job and meeting on a regular basis and having them report their progress and what they've been doing to the group, so we can all share what you've done, what you need to do, and how the project's going. So once we establish that, we have to, I suggested we're going to talk about some of these components of what it's going to take to write this grant. And of course, if you're going to write the grant, you need a grant writer. And this is one of the most important skills. Someone who is not only a good writer, but we also need someone who knows how to submit the grant, which isn't necessarily a simple task. They have to be familiar with applying for federal grants on grants.gov. There are several steps they go through. And again, this is the time to start. If you're new to the program, you've got two options. Get right into grants.gov now and find out what you have to do to register and start learning, using the tutorials that you'll find at grants.gov, find out what you have to do. An easier approach is when we get back to that partnering that I talked about earlier, find a partner who has already submitted these types of grants. Now, even if they've submitted federal grants before, they're going to have to do some updating, and you're going to have to make sure that if it's been a while since they've submitted a grant, they're going to have to update things with grants.gov. So you either have to learn it yourself or your group, or find someone in your working group that's going to be submitting this grant. And that's, of course, essential. There's no sense in going too much further if at the last minute you end up with grant submission problems. So that's something to consider. once you have identified that person, you're going to have to start looking for the specialists. And we'll be talking about this in future PLCs. We consider about 8 components that every good job training program has. The first one, of course, being community assessment. You've got to, and there's that in itself can be fairly significant. EPA has tools, which we'll be talking about, where you could identify what communities are good for targets as target communities. We'll go through that with you on how to identify that. But once you've identified, they might be brownfield communities that are already being identified, or if you're working with brownfields boots on the ground groups, you may already have a community in mind. You're going to have to identify the community. But more than that, in community assessment, you're going to have to identify advocates in that community, as I mentioned previously, whether it's a church leader, there are community influencers, there are families in every community that spread the word. More importantly, if you're an existing grantee, graduates are tremendous value in the community because they have gone through the program, they become role models for their friends. And we find often when someone has gone through that program, their relatives are enrolling or their friends are enrolling. They are your best recruitment vehicle. So, but that all plays into the community assessment of what that community looks like. What are the problems in the community as far as degradation, environmental degradation, and why you're going to be headquartering that? Are there transportation networks that can get people from the community to the jobs? Are there community centers there where you might be able to do training so that your students aren't going to have to travel to the other side of town to get training? All of those things are part of that community assessment. And someone's going to have to look at that as you start developing your program plan. Labor market assessment, and that, of course, is just as critical. Is there a need for your graduates when they come out? And this will be borne out when you start developing your partnerships and you start, as we said, we start talking about resources that might be required. You're going to have to try to identify people who will be hiring your graduates or willing to look at them. You need at least, when you develop your grant, you're going to want employers to say, we'd be willing to consider your graduates. We'll interview them. You really need to have, and we have to remember that these programs are job training programs. They're job training, and job training is synonymous with job placement. So the end goal of this is not necessarily just to train people, but it's to place people in meaningful jobs in the remediation area or related areas. So the end game to that is working with your employers in your communities to find out if they're willing to work with you. Where are they located? Are they near the target communities? Are they willing to work with people that may have some of the handicaps that or issues that you're going to be targeting? And you'd be amazed at how many communities have employers that are saying, we really want to work with people that are graduating from your program. Case in point, Janet in Santa Fe has been working with national labs. Got started early. At first, we were hearing they won't touch graduates. Well, now we're seeing, well, yes, maybe they have an experimental program. We've got communities that have pilot programs. We've got employers who actually have been incarcerated by themselves and say, I was given a chance and I want to give some other people a chance. We have some hardworking people. You also have some employers that say, we want to look at them, but we do have issues with other employees that may concern other employees having, whether they're ex-offenders or whatever. working side by side with them on some of these issues. So these are all things that you have to look at when you're talking about labor market assessment. The third thing is partnership development. And every time I mention one of these, I say this is one of the most important things, but this certainly is. As I said earlier, you're only getting about 100,000 a year, not enough to really develop a comprehensive program. So you need partners, and you need leveraging partners. And you could include employers. Partnerships is a broad term that might include employers. It will include a variety of people who will be aiding your program. And that might include people in the criminal justice system, or the judicial system, or parole officers coming in and working with if you have ex-offenders, they might include mental counselors, HHS people who are coming in and providing health screening services. There's a variety of in-kind partnerships. It might be a McDonald's who is saying, we'll provide lunches, or it might be several fast food organizations that say, we'll provide lunches for your students as long as they're in training. It may be a transportation agency, a bus line that's a DOT who says, we will give, as long as they're in training, we'll give them bus passes to get to your program. So partnerships are just so important, and anyone who doesn't use them is really missing out on leveraging this program tremendously. You're going to have to, at some point, probably hire consultants if you can't train in-house. But when you could form a partnership and get in-kind partnership leveraging, it's much more preferable than having to go out and hire consultants to do everything, because you just don't have the resource to do that. So that's going to be a big portion of this program. You need someone, and now we're talking about you getting the program started. Now it's time to recruit your students. And we've had so many problems with grantees who fail that say, I jumped into this too fast and I just recruited everyone who came in. I wasn't discriminating enough. And to be honest, I got a poor cohort. I got unmotivated students, people who were just looking for something to do, people who didn't realize how rigorous this program was going to be. And midway through the program, I'm losing them. They're not graduating. They're dropping out, or they're just not motivated. This is one of the biggest sources of failures, is recruiting, poor recruitment in that first cohort. And it's a difficult one. Excuse me.
Mike,
Yes.
Alma has her hand raised.
Yes, Alma.
I wanted to share on that I found out, of course, post from the grantee that I had, that they had an issue with that, and I think it was pandemic driven. But you guys are over here, and I'll look at the camera here while I'm talking to you. Basically, during the pandemic, there were people that really they needed money. It was very, very hard. So they were giving stipends for attendance in class, and people that didn't really want to get employed in environmental work signed up for the training. They got trained, they got paid for being in the classroom, but then they didn't want to take the jobs because that was not their intent at all. It's sad that it was coming to that, but I just wanted you to be aware that, where there's a real need, people do what they have to do to survive. But that was not very helpful for the grantees. So it touches on what you just covered, and I just wanted to share that.
You're right. In the grant, we say 70% placement. We've got grantees, and I don't mean to be discouraging. We have grantees who are placing 100% of their students. And they've got employers who are saying, we'll take everyone you got. We'll look at them. So you will be amazed when you get to that point and you start showing employers, you have to remember that you're providing about $5,000 on average of training to new hires who have been vetted. They've endured your job training program. They've been screened by you, and they're at their doorsteps. And they could be really positive contributions to their program. So there are many employers who you'll find, if you look hard enough, you'll find in your community that are willing to talk to your graduates. And it's really nice when they're placed before they graduate. And that happens. It really does. And so it's something to keep in mind. When we're going to get into that recruitment process, and it's not only just recruitment or awareness, but also assessment of how you may want to test them, whatever kind of tests you may want to perform. We'll be talking about that later, and particularly motivation. Now comes one of the simplest part of this whole thing is training. We think of environmental job training as this is a training program. We're providing technical training. Well, as it turns out, sometimes that's the easiest part of the whole grant. And we'll talk about curriculum at a later PLC. The thing to keep in mind is there's only one required course. It's HAZWOPER 1910-120. Everything else is dependent on what your employers want, what the need is in the community, and you justifying that need. This, like what community colleges are supposed to be doing, is you're training to the demand. And that may change even from cohort to cohort. But if you've got an employer who says, I'll hire your people, but they've got to have this particular class, well, you really strongly want to consider including that in your curriculum. We'll certainly be giving you some guidelines on what many people are training, whether it's HAZWOPER or it might be certain OSHA courses like OSHA 10 or OSHA 30 and confined space, but we'll talk about that in more detail. But there is probably a list of 30 or 40 courses that different grantees have provided over the years. And there are technical courses and there's awareness courses where if they are generally aware of those courses, their employer is very happy to have them come on board because they know they're familiar with the area of environmental remediation. Associated with training, EPA supports the technical training that falls in certain specific areas that come out. They're located in the RFA, but they will not, under this grant, with this money, support the life skills. And we get back to partnerships and in-kind training. We need to provide life skills training and to various extents from different grantees. Some are very basic, some include financial literacy, and some go way over that. But you will need some partnership support to provide the life skills, the training that EPA would not support to complement your program, to make it a really good program. Associated with what Alma said was this student support and retention is a big part of these programs. As Alma said, you get people in there and they even drop out. And this is why some of our grantees suggested having these mentor programs where you convince a person to stay in because it's in their best interest, and giving them encouragement as they go along. Some of the students that we're working with have a lot of issues. They have street debt, they have regular debt, they're trying to support their families, they got health issues, they got family issues. They need to make money while they're doing this, and this will influence your training. You may be having night classes or Saturday classes. This all influences how you develop your program. But student support and retention is a huge part of this program. You want to, again, we've got grantees that once they get in, everyone stays. Sometimes they lose 10 or 20% of their people, and that's something to consider. But how do you maximize keeping students motivated and keeping them in the program? Second to last, graduation and placement. As I said earlier, the purpose of this program is placement, training and placement. We've got to give good jobs to people in underserved communities. Along with placement goes tracking. So one of the requirements of the grant is not only you place them, but you track how they're doing. And that gets back to partnerships with employers. You want to have a good employer relation program where perhaps every 6 months you just check in with someone. How's our graduate doing? Would you want more referrals? You might be offering refresher courses. This would allow them to come back to you, mentor existing students, and also enable you to track how your students are doing. So that is what we call the 7th key component to these programs. And then, of course, the last component that we're all interested in is what happens when this grant ends. Whether you're a 3-year grant or a 5-year grant, once you've got the grant, it's not all over. In fact, I remember the best grantees being those that once they get the grant, they start saying, okay, what do we need to do to build this program to get the next grant or to get another grant? And we've touched upon it a little bit today. And Nolan has suggested, you've got the EPA grant. Well, perhaps there's a DOT grant you can get, or maybe there's a DOE grant you can get. And these grants are not duplicative, but they're synergistic with the EPA grant. Many of our grants have started out with us, but have graduated to much bigger grants. It might be a grant with NIHS. Many of our grantees have gone on and developed grants with NIHS in OSHA and health and safety training.
Mike?
Yes.
Alma has her hand raised again.
Hi, Alma.
I'm sorry, but every time you
That's
say
fine.
something, I come up with something.
That's
The
what we were
EDA
looking for.
Yeah, yeah.
The EDA has some funds that, and I'm barely learning about this, okay, because I'm getting ready to do a webinar at the end of the month, at the end of this month. And EDA has these amazing funds that are really tied to job creation. So Dr. Robinson and anyone else that's here that might be looking at developing a new grant needs to go and look at the EDA funding. They also have some, this is my understanding, it's new. I'm not even sure that they've worked out how they're going to get it out, but they also have funding for stipends for, was it childcare, I think? Don't quote me. Go in and look at their website and get a hold of somebody that knows the EDA guidelines, but there's definitely money that pairs off really well with job training. And by the end of the month, maybe when I'm ready for presenting by next Wednesday, I will know a little bit more for you.
Great. Well, you know, Libby and Sherry touched on it. They've got Stewart's and Harvard grants. And these grants build on other grants, and they give you capability. They give you an advantage on getting other grants. Some in the job placement or training area, some in OSHA training. They vary, but they're different grants from different organizations, even within EPA. Environmental education grants, they're not duplicate, but the skills that you're developing and the staff that you've assembled on this grant can be applicable to additional grants that are available. So, and I think there was a good one from Shanine about women in non-traditional jobs. We had at different times 2 or 3 grantees, Oregon's tradeswomen, who had a grant for several cycles. It was an all-women's grant, and there was an excellent opportunity for them to use this grant to build on another one. Many of our grants they're not all women, but we have some that are half the people in the program, the recruits are women. We've got a mix, and we'll be talking about that too later, in making sure that you've got a diverse population in your training cohorts. But so we've always looked at this as two things. One, in the sustainability issue, these grants are judged on the quality of your grant and your program. And it's irrelevant whether you've had a grant for 4 years or 3 years or 15 or 20 years. It depends on the quality of your program, the quality of your grant. What are you showing that you're providing to your community? So as far as sustainability goes, yes, you can re-up, we call it, when your grant is over. There are some restrictions, as we touched upon earlier. You can't have two grants running at the same time, but unless you've exhausted 50% of the dispersed funds. But you could be getting other synergistic grants, and you can also be looking for re-upping this grant, and you have to make sure it's not a repeat. You just don't keep getting money. You have to show how this grant is going to be a better version of even the good work that you've been doing. And as I said, we've had grantees who have been there for 20 years. We've had grantees who have been there for 3 or 5 years. Many grants that these used to be 3-year grants that have re-upped several times. So there is a mix, but always keep sustainability in your mind. When we started these, the idea was to jumpstart a program that could take off by itself. In some communities, I think we came to the realization that the support may not be there, and their continued federal support is required, but the program has to be shown to be valuable to the community. There have been a few who have started this program and don't need us anymore, or they're too busy with other programs. I could recall a couple one in New Jersey Youth Corps, and one in Boston that went in different directions. They started off with us, and then they might have gotten legislative funding or morphed into a different type of grant program, federal, and really didn't need us anymore. But that's okay. They did some good work for us while they were with us. So I think there's a lot of opportunities, whether you're an aspiring grantee, a brand new grantee, or an old dog, an existing grantee who has done a lot of good work over the years and continue to do the good work. So,
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
I have to say, welcome to Linda Morgan. I know she's been trying to get in and had trouble. A number of people had trouble. So, Linda, I'm so happy to see you because you're not the only one that had trouble. We had some other folks that were like locked out. So I think we got it fixed.
And Linda, you're in the last 2 minutes of the call, but we got to introduce you.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And this is just the beginning of a whole lot of neat PLCs we're going to have in the future. So hopefully everyone will join us on the next one.
Yeah, given it's the last 2 minutes, I just want to make sure if anybody had any questions or comments that we got those in before we shut down the meeting. And I'll ask Tim to put up, we have a contact us slide that has all of our email information on it in case you want to ask us or tell us or whatever it is you want to do. But are there any I guess questions or ideas or issues or comments that people would like to make?
There was one question, Nolan, from Alma in the chat. Whatever happened to Oregon tradeswomen?
Oregon tradeswomen had a change of staff, which happens. It happened to us. They had a change of management, and their interests changed, and we were really sorry to see them go. Now, having said that, we've had grantees and things like Kane County. They may have dropped out and they're back in, or they'll come back. So we're hopeful they're going to come back. We've had some people drop out for 3 or 4, 1 or 2 cycles, and they'll come back. So I'm hoping tremendously. We had a great group there, and I'm hoping that some of the people who left may be gone, but there'll be new motivated people that say we ought to reconsider this. I think it was a very successful program.
Excellent. Yeah.
Okay, so again, we have a save the date for that week of August 19th for the all grantee meeting. It is a virtual meeting this year, but any ideas you have or needs or concerns, please make sure that you get in touch with us. The earlier, the better, early and often, as we say. And we will be getting back with you with more information about that the closer we get to it in terms of actual length, format, content, etc. We also, this meeting, PLCs are now monthly. It'll be this third Wednesday at the login that you used to get in today. I'll say the login you used to successfully get in today. And so, you know, I guess as people adjust that there's a new address for this, you know, hopefully we'll see you and more of you. And again, this is your PLC. So, you know, help us and tell us what it is you need from us or what it is you want to discuss. We've laid out an idea of what we'll be covering in the PLCs, and it's based on the RFA and the application and starting program process. But we want to make sure that we're, again, giving you useful information that you need and giving you the opportunities to network with each other. So I'll now leave it to Steve and Mike to close out.
I think, I hope we'll have much more discussion. Thank you for everyone bringing up your comments and in the future. And hopefully we'll have an easier time getting people online at the next PLC. Steve, anything you want to say?
No, I echo all those comments, and it was really a pleasure to see everyone here today, and hopefully you'll join us in the future, and we'll have more folks join us going forward.
Okay, so again, our thanks to Matt Washy and Blaise Levin for bringing us back to life. The Phoenix has risen. The band is back together again. So we appreciate them and working with their organizations and for their organizations. And so I guess, Matt, you get the final word before you sign the big bonus check.
No, I just wanted to say again, thank you for all your work. Glad this is back up and running. Hopefully we can support everybody on this call and get more new grantees and get more awards sent out. So thank you all.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right, I guess we can stop recording.